Amazon software engineers recently uncovered a big problem. Their new online recruiting tool did not like women. The glitch, sources told Reuters, stemmed from the fact that Amazon's computer models were trained by observing patterns in resumes of job candidates over a 10-year period, largely from men, in effect teaching themselves that male candidates were preferable. Reuters correspondent Jeffrey Daston.
The technology thought, oh, Amazon doesn't like any resume that has the word women's in it. Women's, captain of a women's chess club, captain of a women's soccer team, and all women's university, because the company has hired so many male engineers or software developers, data scientists, and so forth, that clearly the unsuccessful candidates are the ones who also would have this word women's in it.
Amazon never solely relied on these online recruiting tools and disbanded the unit that created it by the start of last year, sources said. It now uses a much watered-down version for administrative chores. The company declined to comment. Daston explaining that artificial intelligence is only as smart as the information it's fed.
What people say in the industry is garbage in, garbage out. So if you give it bad data or that reflects some bias or whatever, the computer is just going to mimic that.
A growing number of companies are automating recruitment, hoping this will make hiring faster and more uniform. Hilton and Unilever are among those using software made by HireVue, which lets applicants video record answers to employers' questions.
Thank you so much.
HireVue's CEO says his firm analyzes candidates' speech and facial expressions in order to reduce reliance on resumes. Amazon, a source said, has a new team assembled to give online screening another try, this time with a focus on diversity.
This storm is dangerous, and if you don't follow warnings from officials, this storm could kill you.
Florida Governor Rick Scott not mincing his words when warning about the extreme danger of Hurricane Michael. Already a Category 4, it could be the most severe hurricane to strike the Florida Panhandle on record. It's forecasted to pack 130-mile-per-hour winds when it makes landfall mid-Wednesday. Unlike Hurricane Florence in the Carolinas, officials are calling Michael a textbook case of a hurricane getting stronger before it hits shore. Normally dry areas could experience water surges of 13 feet with the power to wash away buildings, leaving places uninhabitable in Michael's wake. It's got locals like beachfront shop owner Tom Conklin on tenterhooks.
Boarding up. This one's coming pretty close, so got a little nervous.
A state of emergency has been declared in several dozen counties along Florida's Panhandle and Big Bend regions. Nearly 500,000 people are under evacuation orders. Officials are urging them to leave, particularly in coastal areas where some mandatory evacuations are already underway. Parts of the Caribbean, including Cancun and Cuba, have already been battered by the storm.
It has been an honor of a lifetime.
Nikki Haley, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, announced on Tuesday she is resigning and immediately denied she is preparing for a presidential bid.
For all of you that are going to ask about 2020, no, I'm not running for 2020. I can promise you what I'll be doing is campaigning for this one.
Reuters UN correspondent Michelle Nichols.
The resignation of Nikki Haley as the U.S. ambassador to the UN has come basically as a complete shock to everyone at the UN. No one knew this was coming. I have had ambassadors messaging me, asking me what's going on, why is she leaving? I think it's still a bit of a mystery to a lot of people. During a trip to India that Nikki Haley did in June, she told me, I sat down and did an interview with her, and she told me that she would focus on her UN job for now, and that as long as she was being effective, she'd stay in the job. So I guess that raises the question, does she not think she's able to be effective anymore at the UN?
It's a great day in the United States.
Haley said she would stay on until the end of the year. Trump said he had accepted her resignation.
She told me probably 6 months ago, she said, maybe at the end of the year, at the end of a 2-year period, but at the end of the year, I want to take a little time off. I want to take a little break. We're all happy for you in one way, but we hate to lose. Hopefully you'll be coming back at some point. But
Haley is the latest in a long line of high-profile departures from the Trump administration. The president said he would name Haley's successor within 2 or 3 weeks.
Maybe sooner.
Her departure leaves the Trump administration with one less moderate Republican, on the president's foreign policy team.
These women are sailors in the Japanese Navy, training for a seaborne inspection raid. They're on the front line of bringing equality to Japan's maritime self-defense force. Their crew aboard their country's biggest warship, a helicopter carrier named the Kaga. Around 9% of the Kaga's crew are female, part of a deliberate effort to raise the number of women in Japan's military, where the current average is just 6%. Reuters' Tim Kelly gained exclusive access to the Kaga during a recent tour of Southeast Asia. And he says the ship's very design is helping bring women to the fore.
There are no roles on the ship that women don't perform. They do aircraft maintenance, they steer the ship, they're in the radio room, they work in the kitchens. It takes a lot of people to operate a ship. This ship has a crew of 500 people, and about 50 of those are women. So this ship has been designed specifically to have a mixed crew that has separate quarters for the women and separate quarters for the men, and then they work together.
Attracting more women to join Japan's maritime self-defense force isn't just about equality. The country's changing demographics, along with China's rising influence in Asia, have made it a necessity. Japan has one of the world's biggest navies, with over 100 vessels crewed by 45,000 sailors.
80-year-old Yurie Miho is volunteering for a human crash test. He's trialling Daihatsu's pint-sized Tanto. With automatic emergency brakes and error-detecting pedals, high-tech mini-cars like these were marketed towards young Japanese families. Instead, they've gained a huge following in a very different market. Pensioners like Miho, who are growing wary of traditional autos. Reuters' Naomi Tajitsu has been speaking to mini-car makers who say they're beginning to realise their older customer base.
Automakers are starting to come around, and they're starting to acknowledge that it's elderly people that are buying these cars. But they've become very popular amongst elderly people because they're small, they're easy to drive, and they're easy to maneuver around, small, narrow streets in the country.
Japan is home to one of the world's most rapidly aging populations, and the number of driving license holders aged over 60 is 2 times the number of those who are under 30. And that figure is starting to alarm officials, not least because older drivers were involved in 55% of the country's accidents last year. The government's response was to require drivers over 75 to renew their license. During the cognitive testing this year, around 60,000 would-be drivers were flagged as potentially suffering from dementia. The hope is driverless cars will one day help keep the elderly mobile for longer. And until that future arrives, small high-tech cars are helping to bridge the gap.
It's Taylor Swift! Taylor Swift!
Taylor Swift. Taylor Swift was the big winner at the American Music Awards on Tuesday, picking up a record 4th Artist of the Year award along with 3 other accolades. During her acceptance speech, Swift acknowledged the power of the people before asking them to exercise it in the upcoming midterm elections.
Thank you so much for this, and I just wanted to make a mention of the fact that this award and every single award given out tonight were voted on by the people, and you know what else is voted on by the people is the midterm elections on November 6th. Get out and vote. I love you guys.
On Sunday, Swift got political on her Instagram account, also asking her 112 million followers on the platform to vote. One non-profit site said Swift's call-out contributed to a huge spike in online registrations, particularly among young people. The site vote.org says they recorded 240,000 new registrations since she posted her message Sunday night. By comparison, it clocked up just 57,000 new registrations in all of August and 190,000 last month.